Hey everyone, welcome to WTF in recruiting. That is what to fix in recruiting. I am your host, Brandice. I'm so happy to see everyone here today. In traditional WTF fashion, let me know in the chat. I want to know what song is getting you through your WTF moments this week. We have some amazing folks on the panel today. We are talking about how to Marie Kondo your tech stack, how to clean things up, where you should start, what you should be thinking about, what you're not thinking about. We're going to get into all of that today. So I'm going to bring our two amazing panelists on stage. Steve, Bernardo, welcome to WTF.
Hello, Brandice.
Bernardo, gosh, you're such an old friend. I feel like you and we've been getting to know each other for a while, and you always have really smart things to say. So I'm so glad you're here today. Bernardo, tell the people who you are.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, it's been a while since we chatted. My name is Bernardo. I'm part of the people team here at Box. I lead people analytics, and I also have responsibility over the people tech stack. But I've been at Box for over a little over 5 years. Started as the recruiting operations lead, and then moved into this broader role, looking after all people analytics and all people technology. Right before that, I spent a long time in sales enablement, field sales, for like 10 years at Apple. So, yeah, so happy to be here.
Yeah, super excited you're here, and always a welcome face here at WTF. Steve, join the people. Okay, I'm gonna bring Steve on stage. Here
Oh,
he
there he
comes.
is.
Hey, it's good to be here. Thanks for having me. It's great to see everybody. Steve, co-founder CEO here at Gem. Been building Gem for about 8 years now. Holy cow, time has flown. At Gem, we are building the only AI first all-in-one recruiting platform. So essentially, what we're doing is we're bringing together your ATS, your CRM, your sourcing, your talent marketing and events, your scheduling automation, plus end-to-end analytics. And on top of that, we're combining that with a 650 million public profiles to source from, all in one platform with AI built natively through the entire thing. So, really excited to be here. Excited to talk about spring cleaning. And Bernardo, it's good to see you, man. I feel like it's been ages. Like I think what we first met in 2020 or something like that.
That's right. Yeah. It's been a while. It's good to see you again, Steve. And I've been following closely the Gem journey, which is exciting. Yeah.
I feel like this is
Good
just
stuff.
one big happy reunion. All right, guys. We always do this to start. I need to know what song is getting you through your WTF moment this week. Bernardo, what are you listening to?
Yeah, I saw it in the chat too, but I've been listening to a lot of Kendrick lately. Not so much the Super Bowl playlist, which was awesome, but I've been going back to the first record. So yeah, really revisiting deep cuts from Kendrick.
OG Kendrick is always a favorite. What about you, Steve?
Yeah.
Yeah, for me, we have the whole company in town for kickoff. We also did a really big relaunch at Gem yesterday, so I've just been getting amped up. Eye the Tiger, 100%.
If it starts blasting through the office, we know why. All right, well, let's get into it. So, I think you guys are perfect for this topic. So recruiting tech has obviously exploded over the last decade. Steve, I won't steal your stat. In case you want to throw it out there, it's a good one. But the question is like, has technology actually made hiring better? And if the answer is yes, like, why are we still having to sell people the dream of, unifying technology or how technology can help? Like, shouldn't people get it by now? Bernardo.
Yeah, it's a fascinating space. There is so much out there, so many tools, and now with AI, it looks like all that is supercharged, right? Like everyone has an AI app for everything. You have a, a lot more 20 year olds, building something quickly and putting it out on the market. So definitely a difficult space to navigate. Your specific question: has it made hiring easier and faster? I think it depends. It depends on every team, right? I think there's some places where they have had a very disciplined approach and very rigorous approach, to how to think about your tool to tech stack, and it has made things better. You have to think deeply about integrations. You have to think deeply about features, and about ultimately your user, which, in our case here, we're talking about recruiters, sourcers, recruiting managers, VPs of talent, etc. But in other cases, when people have more like a laissez-faire approach, and more like, oh yeah, let's bring this other thing, let's try this one out, it has probably made the life of the recruiter harder. They're probably, if you looked at their Chrome browser, or whatever browser they use right now, they probably have like, tens, if not dozens of tabs open, and that just makes it hard if you have to be navigating from tab to tab, and you kind of lose control over your workflow. So again, depends on how you've approached this from an enterprise point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I think my tabs is just my ADHD, but Steve, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm curious how many tabs each of us has open right now. But no, seriously, I think you hit it on the head. Brandice, maybe the stat you're referring to is over 10 years, I believe we went from 150 vendors in the recruiting space to 550, 600, something wild, right? And with AI, as Bernardo called out, like, we're seeing dozens more get started every few months. And I think we've gone up to something like 8 to 10 tools per recruiter in the average, like, small tech company, and more like 20 to 25 tools per recruiter that they have to learn at the larger enterprises. Does that kind of check out with you, Bernardo?
Yeah, that's exactly. I mean, for us, it's like 25, but at the entire people level, right? Not just recruiting. But yeah, easily, when I started looking at this, at least 5 years ago, we were probably around there, right? So we've done a ton of, Marie Kondoing our way through our stack, and yeah, we're a little bit lower than that, but I can totally see that number being real.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I think like my read is similar to Bernardo's, where it's helped in some ways, especially for some areas where there's really great best-in-class tools that are driving a lot of value. But on the other hand, it's hurt in others. I think especially for enterprises that are up to 25 different tools in their stack, or smaller companies that are having to even juggle 10 different tools, it's really holding folks back in a lot of ways. I think Bernardo hit on the biggest one, which is like recruiters have to figure out and swivel between 10 plus different tools to get their job done. But the other thing I think about is, unless you're really good at integrations, but even then there's some limitations, it's hard to have like a really solid source of truth, because like not all these different tools are talking to each other. And that means worse data from like a reporting perspective. It's also really challenging in the age of AI, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, because the number one thing that you need to make AI successful is data. It's no longer the algorithm that's the hard part. It's actually what context does the AI have access to be able to make effective recommendations or do the right thing. And then on top of that, if admins are having to configure 10, 15, 20 different tools and like mirror all the permission levels and the user access, and like who's a hiring manager, who's a recruiter, who's an RC across their entire stack. And we haven't even talked about cost, but yeah, I should pause.
Yeah, no, the implications of this, are huge, because it's, to your point, it's not only the workflow, how complex it is. The data piece is so important, right? Because if you have data coming out of like 25 different tools, like, you probably, as RecOps, you don't have a full, data team that's helping you like harmonize data sources, create a data lake, and all these different things that of course more sophisticated teams do, to be able to tap on the data and make it really easy to create analytics, right? So you probably have your I don't know, your candidate survey data in one place, your scheduling data in some other place, and your core ATS data in another place, your sourcing data. Imagine, how are you going to tell a story to your executive team about, hey, how's hiring doing? Like a simple question like that, it gets extremely hard to answer. So think about how are you going, where's data, and how are you going to, is it clean? Can you trust it, etc. So part of Marie Kondoing is also, tidying up your data source and your data integrity, for sure.
Yeah, totally. And if you're watching or listening to this right now, make these guys work for it. Like if you have questions, you want to interrupt us, they're not giving you what you want or what you need, throw it in the chat. I'll make sure your questions get answered. So let's talk a little bit about, let's say you've identified the issues, right? You're in too many places, you have dirty data, like you have too many tools. But some recruiters or teams say they want fewer tools, but when it actually comes time to like cut, then they hesitate. And so what's the hardest part of getting teams to actually let go of outdated systems, Steve?
I think it's a few things. One is I actually think it is pretty hard to understand ROI of a lot of tools in the stack. And so, and even to this point earlier, how do you understand ROI if you don't have clean data? So understanding ROI is a really big challenge that a lot of teams face. But the other thing is, it's just like really hard to take things away. Like, once you introduce something, it's 10x easier to introduce something new than it is to take something away. And even if there's just one person that depends on it, that can be an uphill battle, even if it's adding a lot more complexity for everyone else. And so I think it kind of takes a fearless rec ops and recruiting leader to be able to make the global decision around what makes sense for the team versus pandering to every single individual. That's my read on the thing that's holding us back the most.
Yeah, my tagline here, what I love to tell people is resist the urge. And I mean that in two ways. Resist the urge to, bring in all these new tools. I mean, we always get, and Steve, I mean, you run a sales organization, so you know how to create leads, how to reach out to prospective clients. But sometimes it's like, oh, this tool is great, we should bring it in, right? And then they, next thing you know, they build the whole business case and they've shown it to the VP and it's like, okay, we have to bring this tool in. Resist the urge, right? Analyze it, take your time, really think deeply about what this tool does. Or run a POC, run a pilot, right? Bring in a few users, hook it up to your workflow, but just give it to 2 or 3 people who are great at assessing tools, systems thinkers who can really think about that and tell you whether it's a good or bad tool. And then also resist the urge on the other end of the spectrum, which is, hey, we should get rid of this tool. And the urge of people is like, no, don't take this tool away from me. My team loves it. It's the best tool ever. And what I do in that case is, a little bit like in the Marie Kondo framework, where there's this great spark. Does it spark joy? Question, right? But in this case, it's like, does it spark joy in the sense that are people really using it, right? And as rec ups, sometimes we don't really look at usage across tools. So look at who's using the tool. What really does the usage stats tell you? What is the story that you can see? Because there might be 1 or 2 people that are very attached to the tool, but if it's two people out of a TA team of 20, then it's probably either you haven't done a good job at enabling people or driving adoption, or just people, it's not that critical, right? So again, you might hear from people, no, you can't take this tool away from me, but go back to the data and see what the data says. And if you can show that, hey, your team is not really using it except for these 2 power users, then let's figure out how to solve for them, right? Versus just keeping a tool in the stack that it's not doing, it's not living up to its promise, right?
Well, let's talk about the flip side of that though, Bernardo, because sometimes there's an amazing tool that can provide a lot of ROI that people just aren't using, and shouldn't be cut, but actually, some change management to get higher adoption. Like, what's our approach there?
I mean, you have to go to the source. Why aren't they using it? It's probably because they're solving for it in a different way. Maybe it's like they're using a legacy process, or or they don't understand what the tool could do for them. So yeah, at that point is you probably then have to remove something else that's blocking them from using it, and you have to go back to basics and go back to, enablement training. We've done a lot of gamified approaches to like, hey, we're gonna have a champion for this thing in the next quarter, and we're on a contest, and if you win, you're gonna win prizes and this, and make it exciting. Also, make it interesting for users to get in there and test it, right? So there's a few things that you can do if you know for a fact that tool is serving its purpose. It's just a user adoption problem.
So what you're saying is take the thing away that's sparking joy for them, which actually isn't providing that much ROI, but it makes them happy because they should be.
It might be another. Yeah.
All right. So let's get a little bit into AI, especially when you talk about, what's worth it, what's not. So AI is being sold as like the future of hiring, but like, what's the one AI capability actually worth consolidating tools for, and what's kind of overhyped? Steve,
you want to take this one first, Bernard? All right, I'll grab it. And actually, I'll do a tribute to Marvin Smith, who just typed into the chat here, who mentioned like, hey, like let's throw AI on top of 620 million public profiles. Thank you for teeing that up, Marvin. And here, let me though explain why it's important for that to be a part of a consolidated end-to-end platform, because that's the nuance that maybe a lot of folks aren't thinking about. So first off, like, I think AI as a new way to search and source is going to completely disrupt the way folks do sourcing. I don't think the future is, either Boolean searches or filling out like filters manually on LinkedIn and then going one by one into the different profiles. Like manual sourcing is not the future. I think the future is tell AI what you're looking for, get really clear and specific about the criteria. Almost think of like AI as a junior sorter that can do some pretty smart stuff based on somebody's public profile, based on their resume, and then let it go to work for you to automate a lot of the manual, tedious work, so that sourcers and recruiters can focus on building relationships, showing up as strategic partners. And so I think that's the future. We're building towards that. We're super excited about it. But it also needs to be a part of an end-to-end platform. Am I cutting out, by the way?
We can hear you, but your video's a little
bit
out. But yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Let me check on my network real quick. It also needs to be part of an end-to-end platform, and here is why. Imagine if AI sourcing bot just started reaching out to the entire talent market, but not knowing who these people are. Not knowing that somebody else on your team had already reached out 3 months ago, or that they had been rejected for a role 7 months ago. An AI sourcing bot that's not a part of an end-to-end platform could actually end up doing more harm than good. And so, that's why in my mind, it's actually absolutely worth investing in this, but in doing so, trying to find a way to consolidate the tech stack to get there. Should I switch over to a different network? Do you think? Is it pretty bad?
Yeah, I think now it's better, I think.
Yeah, I can see you and I can hear you. Bernardo,
let me switch over. Bernardo,
next. He was going to switch over.
Tap in.
Yeah. No, look, the AI question right now, I think, is in everyone's mind. And what's funny is that we've been in this AI question now for at least a couple of years, right? Since the big, ChatGPT launch, if you will. And I think our thinking has evolved as technologists or practitioners. I think now understand it better, but there's still a lot of unknowns. We're still, don't know, I think, all these new models, which one is better for recruiting, which one is better for what, right? For which task. And we keep hearing about all this innovation and, leaner models and, all these newer models that can, like, reasoning models, et cetera. So there's a lot of stuff in there, just understanding AI technology. right? And then the practical, where does it show up, right? Like I'm in my tabs, where does AI showing up? And some of that is going to be organically put in front of us, right? Like vendors like Gem, or really any vendor right now that doesn't have an AI play. It's kind of already behind. So they're going to start. This bots and this agents are going to start showing up for us, but we as practitioners and on the vendor side, on the company side, on the in-house recruiting side, we have to have a strategy. Like we have to know how are we going to adopt? What framework are we going to adopt? Is it an augmentation model? Is it an assistant? Like is AI an assistant? Is it a buddy? Is it how are we going to adopt AI? And then we look at what the AI solutions that are available to us, and we have to go and train people on how to use them, how to better leverage them, right? In our case, for example, the biggest thing has been also how do we adopt our own AI technology, right? Like Box has a very robust AI product offering. So for us, that has been the number one thing is how are we adopting that and how are we hooking it up to other workflows and tools so that we can make better use of it. So that's an added complication, right? Depending on where you are, where you work, that you are like, if you're in tech, you're likely also having your own AI technology that you need to drive adoption for. So
Yeah.
Fascinating space.
You just stressed me out, Bernardo. So what I'm what I'm hearing is like, you know, with all the AI conversations and talk and solutions, I mean, this is just like a further opportunity to overbloat the stack, right?
Yeah.
And so like, how are we weeding through this to say, a million people are going to come at you with a million different AI solutions that solve a million different problems, right? And we don't want, FOMO or fear or whatever to kind of play into making bad decisions. Because to Steve's point, it's easy to introduce a new tool, it's harder to take it out. And so how can people, without kind of moving toward inaction, right? Because it can be overwhelming, or because you don't want to make a wrong choice, or because maybe you don't have someone as smart as Bernardo on your rec ops team, making sure that everyone is like set up for success. How should people be thinking about this and approaching it so you don't end up, because when the tools go from 550 to 1050, right? How do people still make these decisions?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. But do you want to go first? By the way, how's my network? I think it's like much better now. Perfect.
Yeah,
sorry. We got the whole team in town for offsites, and I think our network is under more stress than it's ever been.
No, you're good.
Go for it,
Bernardo.
I
was just gonna bring it back to enablement, right? You have to be going back to your team constantly with new AI ideas, tips and tricks, enablement training, what's new in AI, to kind of do a little bit of hand-holding of, hey, I get it, it's complex, AI is popping up everywhere, but here, let me make sense of it for you. Let me distill everything that's going on. This is what it means for you, recruiter. You're a recruiter of this company. This is what AI means for you. This is what I want you to do with it. This is what I don't want you to do with it. Right? Like that's another big part of it is, are we using AI in a way that it's aligning with rules and regulations and in an ethical way, right? That's another, different space that we have to work with our internal legal teams and compliance and data infosec teams to have that be part of the enablement strategy, right?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. On my end, I think that one of the things that's going to make the next few years much more difficult is, Bernardo called it out earlier. There are just like dozens and dozens of AI tools popping up all the time, left and right. We might go from 550 to 1,050, like Brandice just suggested. And it's really hard to separate what's real from the noise, especially for something as new as generative AI, where people are still wrapping their heads around the use cases and the applications and like what's going to drive value and what's not. And, I think there's like a few rule of thumbs that at least I've started to converge on after talking to a lot of folks who have tried a ton of different tools out there. The first thing is like knowing which applications AI is really built for, so you can know whether to even adopt a tool in the first place. The thing that's gotten a lot better with generative AI is any use case related to text. So think like, resume parsing, or like, using criteria to like, match and rank against resume. Like those are all text-based. Interviews themselves are text-based. So, tools like BrightHire and MetaView, really great at like transcribing the interviews and like summarizing the feedback, and can save recruiters a ton of time. Things that are not text, like I'd be very cautious about like any sort of AI analytics tools. Nothing about generative AI has gotten better to help with that use case. I'd also be very cautious about like, products where it's like, oh, you can just chat to the product and it will go update your CRM or your ATS. Just talk to it and it'll like interface with the rest of the platform for you. Like that model doesn't really work very well. And so like the first thing is like applications and use cases. Does that kind of resonate with you, Bernardo, in terms of things that are being text-based?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a key thing, right? Like where should we use AI and where shouldn't we, right? It's part of telling like the do's and don'ts, because there's places that it works better than in others. And at the end, there's parts of our work, like in recruiting, that are extremely human centric, right? And we shouldn't try to replace the human aspect of our roles with AI, right? Like we should use AI to do all the things that doesn't really require much of a human, not reasoning, but I'm going to call it the human touch, right? Those are probably low value, repetitive, manual things. That's where we should think about applying AI, so that we can free the time of our teams to invest more in those highly human complex tools. Tasks like building relationships, like learning about the talent market, like learning about our stakeholders, getting deeper in their business and understanding their priorities, right? That's
100%.
a little bit of how we philosophically approached it.
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually the second theme. You hit it on the head. Like anyone that's trying to sell you as like, hey, this AI can replace your recruiters or replace your sourcers. Like I think companies should be very wary of that. I think the model that we've seen work best is when recruiters and sourcers remain in the driver's seat. So it's more of a co-pilot model. And like Bernardo said, like automate the manual, tedious parts of the job so that recruiters can focus on the strategic parts. Showing up as strategic partners to the rest of the organization, building relationships, and elevating candidate experience. The third and last thing that I think people need to be really careful of is actually understanding what AI is under the hood. A lot of companies are trying to ride the AI hype train by dressing up things that aren't as AI. Or saying, oh, you want AI? Oh yeah, like come buy our AI that we built 10 years ago. But really the thing that's gotten better is these foundational models from OpenAI, Anthropic, and others that have driven all the innovation. And so, I think it's pretty important to peek under the hood and see, oh, are you using OpenAI? Are you using Claude or one of the newer models? Or are you still doing AI the old-fashioned way?
Right. Yeah. And can you bring your own model, right? Like, or if there is, what is your strategy to adopt new models? Because one of the things that we've seen, for example, like in our internal tool, we do a lot of metadata extraction, right? And it's not up until the latest models that I've gotten really good at extracting data from a PDF, for example, right? Like reading, and this is not OCR. This is like an AI going and analyzing, the text in a PDF and extracting the metadata from that, right? But there's models that do it better than others. So can the tool that you want to implement, Steve, to your point, when you look under the hood, which model is it? Will you adopt the newer models, et cetera, et cetera?
Yeah,
Steve,
I mean, on that note, go ahead, Brandice.
No, you guys go. I'm just here drinking tea.
I mean, I just have this really funny anecdote to share that just occurred to me with what Bernardo shared, and I think it really speaks to the importance of like leveraging the newer models versus the older ones. So in GEM, we do resume parsing, and we do that so that if you upload a resume to the CRM, or if you're using our ATS and like somebody applies, like we can extract out all the metadata. So like what Bernardo was talking about, really made me think of this. And we used to use a dedicated AI provider that extracts metadata from resumes. And this is I'm not going to name the company, but this is a company that has been, building this for 10, 15 years. They had like specialists, like AI machine learning engineers that were building exactly around this use case. And we used to use this. When OpenAI came out just a year and a half, 2 years ago, we decided to run an experiment. We're like, oh, like what if we just asked OpenAI to parse these resumes and pull out the metadata we need? And we were floored. It was both more accurate and 10x cheaper than this, custom built, dedicated like AI model that had been refined over 10 plus years. This is a company where this is all they do is sell this model. And that really opened my eyes. When I saw this like a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was like, oh my gosh, this is the future. Like GEM, we need to reorient our entire company around being AI first. I think it speaks to the importance of understanding the underlying model that powers these things.
Amazing. Bernardo, you have a question from Raphael. Bernardo, could you share some practical tips for structuring an effective long-term enablement strategy? Specifically, how do you balance the need for synchronous training, which is time-consuming and doesn't benefit future hires, but the challenge of keeping async documentation, content libraries up to date? I'm almost done. Is there a way to get around these challenges?
Yeah, look, I hate to answer this question with what we're talking about, which is AI, but think of it of this way. Like enablement and adoption, all that stuff is going to be disrupted by AI, right? Every time you're preparing to do something now, when you're getting trained for something, you should be leveraging AI. So it only makes sense that if you're going to have an enablement strategy, you have to pair it with an AI component as well. So, for example, what this looks like is, can I ask an AI agent something about this tool or about this whatever content that we're talking about here that we're enabling people with, and is that AI agent trained properly, right, on the content? And that's why having a lot of tidiness in all of your policies and all of your documentation and everything. The thing that I realized is that data right now, as we think of data, it's not only data in the classic sense of the word, which is our employee data or our candidate data or our rec data or our job data. Data is everything. In the AI world, everything is data, right? A policy description is data. Our guideline, a process definition, a training material, everything is data, right? So in order to evolve this, we have to be really, really disciplined, and we have to be looking at everything that we're going to use to be training these models and these agents, so that when we have this new version of enablement that is paired with AI, and that will make it fun and faster and more engaging for people on the receiving end of this enablement strategy, right? So yeah, think you have to completely get rid of your classic idea of enablement. Oh, we're gonna create this content, and then we're gonna run this training, and then we're gonna send the survey, and then we're gonna do this follow-up training. Like we have to think of the user now as an AI native who's will want to use AI to help learn, and that's I think how we should be thinking about it. But Brandice, what do you think?
You don't want to know what I think, Bernardo. I think that, actually, one question that I did have is when you think about just like AI as a whole, and how it's going to kind of like level the playing field in terms of folks having a competitive advantage, in the market. Is there ever going to be, I know everyone's a special snowflake and everyone has like a different use case and scenario within their TA teams and everything's configured differently and all those things, like taking all that into consideration. But will there ever be like a standardized tech stack, right? Like, and if that's the case, if we decide that like, this set of tools with AI threaded throughout, is the best case scenario to recruit and to hire, um, is that a pipe dream? Will it always just be hard? Will we always be making kind of like these individual decisions to try to get to some sort of optimal situation, or will we ever truly have something that everyone can use and still remain competitive?
What do you think, Steve? I think you from a product point of view. I mean, I have my take on it. But what do you think?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's the dream. I don't think it's going to cover every base. And I also think that anything in that direction still needs to, be open to connecting with everything else in the ecosystem. Because there's always going to be some teams that prefer maybe this one specific part of the stack for a very specific reason. But that is the vision we're building towards, right? Like a AI first all-in-one recruiting platform where you don't have to sacrifice best of breed for all-in-one. You can use an end-to-end platform that was designed for recruiters that actually has like end user experience in mind, while still benefiting from all of the amazing things of having everything under one roof. But we're never going to get to like truly all-in-one because there's always going to be other use cases, newer things on the horizon where it makes sense for different point solutions to integrate with that source of truth. So I think that we're going to get a lot closer over the next 1 to 2 years to that vision for a vast majority of the market. But it's still important to be able to like integrate with everything else in the stack just in case.
Yeah, I think AI will make it easier. It's gonna make two things go faster and easier. One is on the development side, right? So, Steve, you probably have your developers and your product managers and your product designers probably have a lot of help from AI tools to do their work faster and to solve very complex problems in an easier way, right? So that there is how AI supercharges development, software development, and product development. That's one thing. But then when we think here on the practitioner side, we think about, for example, migrating your ATS. You start getting nightmares. Like, no, nobody wants to migrate an ATS. Of course not. But I think with AI, think of the two big challenges with migrating to a new ATS. It's, data migration and change management. That's basically it, right? AI can help you in both. Probably AI can help you parse bring your, I don't know, in our case, we have like 1.5 million application records in our current ATS. But probably with AI, it could help us, do data migration faster. And what I was saying about enablement earlier, right? AI arguably can help you do better enablement, easier change management, create content faster, personalized content, make it engaging. And so I think those two trends, AI will just do things just easier and faster for all of us. So I think that will create the future that we've been dreaming of, and that Steve has been building towards.
Yeah, I love the point on enablement and also enablement resources. Like, yeah, you could totally imagine a world where you say, hey, like generative AI, here's our internal like wiki and resources on how to use our ATS, like all the different core workflows. Here's GEM's help center. Help translate it from greenhouse specific to GEM specific.
100%.
Boom. Yeah, no, for sure. I'm going to borrow that one. Thank you.
Steve's going to be putting out his greatest hits on AI prompts soon to help everyone that's watching right now. So, question from Carlin. How have you all overcome internal legal concerns around AI for recruiting? They often aim for zero risk, so warranties and indemnification, things like that, to ensure the business is safeguarded in extreme outlier events.
Yeah, that's a tough one. We're actually going through one of these conversations right now with a vendor, and our legal team is pushing hard on wanting to have everything in writing in the contract, right? And I think it's challenging because I mean, Steve, you must see it as well, right? Like you have to take responsibility for how you use AI, but then you also have to offer your clients the peace of mind of how your sub processors, like the vendors that you are using to ultimately offer AI solutions, how they are, kind of their commitments and all of that, legal complexity. So it's a tough conversation, but I think we have to get very, very knowledgeable about this space as practitioners. We have to understand the complexities of AI, the challenges. I'm not saying that we should know all the local and state and regulations around AI, but hey, what I did in this case is like I was super confused about a paragraph, and I put it in AI and I said, please explain this to me as if I was like 10 years old, right? And then
Cool.
I was able to faster make sense of what was, you know, the discussion around, because here I had my legal team and the vendor going at it, and I wasn't fully understanding what were they discussing, right? But we, as the owners, the tool owners, we have to be there to keep moving the needle and keep implementing these tools. Like there's always going to be risk, but at the end, we're accountable for the level of risk that we go into, right? And it's probably never going to be zero because, yeah, this is new technology. Their framework changes all the time. So
Yeah, 100%. If I can just add to that, I really think because legal teams, it's not their job to necessarily think, oh, like this thing is going to have a big impact for the recruiting team or for the different business owners. It's their job to think about risk. And there's a lot of unknowns with AI. And so I think to get things through legal, what it takes is leadership that can really advocate for the business value, because then it's a risk reward trade off. So I think teams need to get really, really good at advocating for ROI and for what it's going to enable for the business, like more than ever before. And then usually legal teams are willing to be flexible or even, take on some unknown risk.
yeah.
Awesome. Pablo, let's see. How much of GEM has been re-architected to be an AI first org, or are you thinking about it more in terms of introducing new AI features, i.e. sourcing? I'm thinking, how does AI translate into other aspects of the tool, sequences, reports, analysis, etc.? I think this question is for Bernardo. I'm kidding. Steve?
I was like, oh.
Let me tell you about.
All right, so I'm going to use a combination of what we've already done, where the platform is today, and then a little bit of a sneak peek into one item that's coming in 3 months, another item that's coming in 6 months, just to sort of paint the holistic vision of what AI first means in GEM. So, all right, first off, to make this all possible, GEM has invested a lot in building one of the best all-in-one recruiting platforms. So all of this AI vision is only possible because we combine ATS with CRM, with sourcing, with talent marketing, with scheduling, with end-to-end analytics. So I'm going to preface all that because it's really important to have a really solid source of truth for all of your recruiting data to be able to leverage AI on top of it. So here's the end-to-end vision that we've mostly built towards with two more things coming. So the first is you kick off a role. You post your job. Actually, before you even post your job, you ask AI and you say, hey, write me up a draft job description. So that's coming later this year, and it's going to be based on top of your historical job descriptions and a few things that are specific to this role. So you kick off your role, you post your job. Now you say, all right, I'm starting to get inbound. AI, can you help me sort through the inbound I'm getting, because companies are receiving 3x the inbound in this environment. 20% of our customers are getting thousands of applicants for a single role. And AI is going to say, great, here's your job description. Here's 5 to 10 criteria that I'm going to suggest to you to start ranking. What do you want to adjust about these criteria? So fine tune those criteria, maybe change 2 or 3 of them, add one that's missing. AI gets to work ranking your inbound. Amazing. You've gone through your inbound lightning fast. Now AI is going to go to work for you, searching across your CRM, searching across your ATS to rediscover folks that also match those same criteria. That piece is coming in 3 months. But the inbound piece, starting with your job description, AI auto-generating 5 to 10 criteria, already exists. All right, so you've looked at all of your warm relationships sitting in your CRM, sitting in your ATS. Now what? Well, AI starts to source on top of 650 million public profiles and surface 100, 200 people a week that could be a great fit for that job using those exact same criteria. This is what I believe and what I mean when I say like an AI first all-in-one recruiting platform. It's AI getting to work for you across all of your different sources. Now, once the time comes to reach out, and this piece is coming in 3 to 6 months, let's look at the relationship history for every single person we're reaching out to. Maybe the fact that somebody else on the recruiting team reached out 3 months ago or 8 months ago, or the fact that they applied for a different role and rejected, or the fact that they attended a recruiting event 1-2 years ago. And let's factor that into the outreach message, or whether we should even reach out in the first place. If somebody was recently rejected, like let's incorporate those rules of engagement into the AI sourcing bot so that we're not spamming the market and hurting our talent brand, engaging with candidates that we shouldn't. But then for the ones that we should, let's factor that hyper personalization about the fact that they attended our Women in Tech event 2 years ago, or the fact that Brandice reached out 9 months ago about a different role, and make that touch point feel super magical. Let's bring them joy, so to speak, and really elevate candidate experience and the likelihood that they're going to respond. As we're going through the process, let's drop in something like HireVue, MetaView, or BrightHire to like help with the interviews, transcribe the notes, and then Gem will like summarize all of the scorecards for you, so you can see at a glance like what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, and like where there were points of disagreement across the different scorecards, so you can enter your debriefs. That piece already exists in the platform. So hopefully that gives folks a taste for what we mean and what I mean when I say AI first, all in one.
Amazing. So if you have other questions, please drop them in the Q&A, and I will make sure we get them answered. I would like to know, when people are thinking about cleaning up their tech stack, and now you have this AI piece, right? It's like sometimes you can feel like you have to prioritize one, or if you kind of slap AI on some of the stuff that maybe you should clean up, maybe it'll just like work and clean it up for you. So in terms of prioritization, like how can people think about kind of where to start? Do we have to be honest and say you just kind of got to do both? And where can they look in their like internal business partners for some of that change management to get that done?
Yeah, I think it's part of the same, right? I see AI as a augmentation, as a supercharging force to all of this. But at the end of the day, you'll have to do the same level of diligence, the same level of internal approvals, convincing, pitching, whatever, whether it's an AI tool or a non-AI tool, whatever it is, right? I think it's the same, at least for me, and that's how we've been doing when we're implementing AI tools. And arguably, the burden is higher, right? Because now there's a lot more questions from the teams of like, but how are you training that AI with our data, and all those other legal cans of worms that are open with the AI technology. So yeah, you'll have to do the work, and And another thing that I picked up from the Marie Kondo framework, which is for Marie Kondo's, when you're doing like your home tidying up, it's said tidy by category, not by location, right? So don't go room to room trying to tidy it up. I would approach the same here for your tech stack, right? Like don't go it like team by team. Don't ask your executive talent team, hey, let's tidy up your stack, and then go to your coordination team and tidy up their stack. No, you have to look at it category by category. So map your entire hire to retire life cycle for your personas, right? And then go category by category, right? So what do we have on the talent attraction, talent sourcing, talent branding category? What do we have in the application management, assessment, right? You're assessing candidates. Probably that's one area. When I first got here, they were using 3 different assessment tools, right, to run technical interviews. Like, why? And so when we start looking at this, like, we probably can align on one, right? People look at you funny in the beginning, but then you start asking the hard questions. So go like face by face, if you will, and that will also be enlightening, because you'll be like, when you start assessing the tools, you're going to realize there's platforms like Jam that actually play in different parts of the life cycle, and then you can start putting this puzzle together. It's like, Jam can help me do this, and I'm going to bring this other thing here, like Steve's example about BrightHire and MetaView, very a point solution that does one thing extremely well. So yeah, that's what I would apply AI in the same way. Like, where is AI playing right now in our life cycle, and go face by face.
Yeah, I would big plus one to what Bernardo said. I really love that insight of, instead of like going team by team, going category by category, because one of the most important things about getting to a really clean and simple stack is consistency.
Yeah.
And if you try to do it team by team, you're inevitably going to end up with a different stack for every different team, and you're not going to end up with, you're going to have 25 different tools. And so, I love that insight. Brandice, I just saw Dana write in something into the chat here I thought was interesting. Need AI to source, search, qualify against our requirements, and help with the screening process. Screening takes a lot of time to write up. I just figured I would offer up some quick thoughts based on some tools that I've seen in the market. First off, like, Gem can help with the sourcing, searching, qualifying against requirements in terms of like resume screening. But if you're hoping to do phone screens, we don't play in that today, but I have a few recommendations. So one is BrightHire and MetaView, the 2 products that we've been talking about, can really save time when your recruiters and hiring managers are doing those screens, because it can automate the note taking for you and then summarize the results. And so a lot of the thing that makes that really time intensive is like having to go compile your notes afterwards and submit your scorecards. So really, really great time saver there. And then there's a few folks that are now using some of the new AI voice technology to try to automate the phone screens themselves. That stuff is like much earlier days. Definitely try it out and see if it's there. But I believe one of them is like James Mackey over at Secure Vision. He's actually started a tech company now with a technical CTO of his, and that's what they're building. And I think there's a few others that are trying to do that too, that you could take a look at.
Awesome. All right, we got a few seconds left. So for all the people who are listening and they're like, yes, everything you said was great, I should do something about the stuff that's, not sparking joy in my tech stack, but they're going to log off, and then they're, maybe nothing will happen. Maybe something will happen. Maybe, who knows, right? Like, and I get it. Like, even Marie Kondo quit cleaning for a while. I don't know if you guys remember that. I think she's back now, though. So give me one takeaway from each of you as we wrap, that, like, if someone's listening to this conversation and they agree with all things that have been said, but they're like, where do I start first, or like what's the one big takeaway? What would you say?
The one thing I would recommend you to do, in case you haven't done it, and this is a super easy exercise, but it's so helpful. Actually build a map, right? Like put it visually. Show your stack visually. Build a slide that shows your stack and start showing it to people around, and you'll see the reactions that you get. I did that. Like we did that like a year and a half ago. Nobody had done it, right? So I was like, hey, this is really confusing. Let me put it all in one slide. So I created the slide where I showed the stack, and I counted the tools, and and when people saw it, I got a bunch of like, wow, I had no idea. Wow, this is amazing. Next thing you know, we start showing that slide everywhere, in every meeting that you can think of, and we started doing this convincing and pitching of like, hey, there's probably a lot of more rigorous approach that we can apply here. And we started claiming that space to do that, and given the trust from our leadership to do that. So if you haven't done that, grab a piece of paper, grab a slide, and actually create little boxes for all of your tools, where they play in the whole life cycle, categorized by type of tool, however you want to visualize it. But that is extremely super easy and very insightful.
Yeah, I love that. It's like such a good practical tip. I'm going to borrow the other one that I just like took away and loved that you mentioned earlier, Bernardo. Map out your stack, but then also mark down which teams are using which tools. And then for that next step, go category by category instead of team by team. And I really like that. I think that's like some great practical hands-on advice. Before I forget, I just wanted to say, if folks have questions or want to continue the conversation, I love connecting with folks from the industry on LinkedIn. I just dropped my handle in there. You're also welcome to follow along. I post pretty much every business day about things like AI, recruiting stack, but also other like recruiting best practices and tips and tricks.
Yeah,
Awesome.
Same here. If you want to bounce any ideas off of tools and how to continue to tidy up your stack, hit me up.
Bernardo's going to be hosting a masterclass.
He just did.
He just did,
Exactly.
Right? Yeah. Well, appreciate you both. This was, I think, a very, very practical and very useful conversation. So thank you for sharing all of your hard-won insights and learnings with the group today. I know we all appreciate it. And with that, I will say thank you, Dana. This was extremely extremely. I like the extremely part on there. That's great.
Yes.
Yeah, we will see you for the next WTF. And with that, I will say have an amazing rest of your day.
Bye, folks.
Thank you, Brandice. Good to
Bye,
see
everyone.
you, Steve. Good to see you, Brandice.
Thank you, Bernardo.
Likewise.
See you.
Bye.